Blanche Hummel, and I'm First Vice President of the Royal Canadian Legion, Tuasin Branch 289. And I have three friends with me this afternoon. On my right is Percy Perry, Air Force, Rick Jacobs, Canadian Scottish, and Percy Macklem, Air Force. And I was CWAC, Canadian Women's Army Corps, during the Second World War. We're here this afternoon to reminisce. Armistice Day is coming, or Remembrance Day as it's known these days. And I'd like to ask Percy Perry to give us a little rundown on his service in the Air Force. Percy?
Yes, I was with the RCAF ground crew and overseas with the Spitfire Squadron, 127 Wing, 421 Squadron. And we went over on D11 into Normandy and spent some time waiting for them to clear out Caen. And then we moved on very rapidly. In fact, the Army got ahead of us and they left us behind, so we couldn't support them with our aircraft. And from there, they shipped us all the way up to Holland, Groves, Holland. And again, we were unable to fly because of bad flooding on the field and just bad weather conditions all around.
Rick, would you like to tell us about your start in the Army?
Oh, a long time ago. Anyway, in 1943, I joined the Army. That was just the time when, just before invasion, before I had to go to France. So my father told me it's conscription going on, and it's better to join the Army now instead of being conscripted, as you can stay in Canada if you want to, but I don't want you to stay in Canada. I know it's no good for me, he said. I might lose you, but he said it's the best for you to join active service. So I joined active service, went overseas, went over, and as they put me in the Regina Rifles. We landed in Scotland and down to England, and then over to France on D-Day. And then that was the beginning of everything.
And Percy?
Well, I have a varied career. I joined in 1940. Try to get in early in the year in May, but I still had another couple of years of school, so I put it off until September. So then I went from Winnipeg, where I was born, raised, my whole family came from, and got shipped to Edmonton. We spent a couple of months in Edmonton, and then everybody from Edmonton was transferred through to Toronto, where I took my ground training course at St. Thomas. Went from St. Thomas out to McDonald, but before I went to McDonald, I was in St. Thomas during the Christmas week, and I guess it was about 400 of the Air Force guys went AWOL from St. Thomas to the different parts of Canada. We went to Toronto, climbed a freight, and rode a freight in the middle of the winter time all the way to Winnipeg. Darn near froze to death. Enjoyed it. But, that's one of my episodes. It seems I spend more time AWOL than I did serving. But I got overseas in May 1942 after a marriage. I got married when I was 20 years of age. Got sent down to a place called St. Leonard's outside of Hastings. In fact, we were right on the channel, and you could see the lights going up in France when the Jerry's come over to raid, and they'd come whistling in across the water and drop a couple of bombs in our area and then take off. But we landed there, I guess, as I say, in May, and then they shipped us all the way across the country back. We landed in Greenock, and they shipped us all the way back up to a place called Peterhead, which is North Aberdeen, and joined an English echelon up there.
What was your actual function in the Air Force, Percy?
Mostly trying to get leave.
Well, that's good. Eh? Did you get enough leave?
Never, mind you, we got good leave over there because we were under RAF. In Canada, you only got leave.
Yeah, we got leave quite often overseas.
I think you got leave every 3 months. You got
Every 3 months.
7 days leave, and then they paid everything. They give you the train ticket and the whole schmear to go wherever you wanted to go.
I remember you get to leave right in the front line and get to leave for 72 hours. And 72 hours, every minute counted. You head for England or Scotland
I
right away.
met some of you guys over there that were on us.
Yeah.
And where in Europe did you serve, Rick?
Well, I landed Juno Beach, France.
What beach is that?
D-Day.
D-Day.
Tuna?
Juno Beach, where the Canadians landed.
Oh.
Yeah. We were in the middle. We only had one beach. The English had 2 beaches on this side of us. Americans 2 beaches on this side. And that, we only had just one because we didn't have as many in our force like Americans and the English. But that's something I'll never forget. If I was on the first wave, see, we went in by waves. The first wave, they couldn't take the beach. They fought, but couldn't take the beach.
I had a cousin that served with the Canadian Scottish that was killed on D-Day. His name was Charlie Kilner. Did you, by any chance, remember him? He was an RSM.
No,
And he was killed right on the beach.
much went in first wave. Well, second wave got it too.
Yeah.
But
How many guys in a wave?
well, I don't know. I don't remember because there was lots of us. And I don't know. It was blowing so hard. A lot of the boats, the swamp before they even got to the beach. Swamp. And I'm looking on. I'm out there in the ship watching. I'm in the 3rd wave, which I was lucky. The beach was taken by the 2nd wave. Took the beach. Then it's up to us to go in and then take over from there. But when we got to the beach, they were gone. They left. Jerry had left. So then became chasing them back.
Came the rat race.
Yeah, yeah.
Percy, number 1, you served in Europe, did you not?
Yeah, we went over on D-Day 11, and
What is D-Day 11?
11 days after
Okay.
June the 6th.
Okay.
And the beach that Rick talks about was established then, and they had it all marked off with white tape where it was clear of mines, and we just drove through the mines, or the clear part, up to a place called Cruelly. And then we sat there a long time, I guess a month and a half, waiting for them to clear Con. And it took quite a while for them to clear it up.
Was there a lot of, did you have, were there any Germans there, or did you?
Well, they had snipers.
Snipers.
In the church steeples, they'd always have snipers placed, and you were warned if you went into any of the villages or anything to be very careful.
That's a long time,
Yeah.
Of course, one of the things that they did while we were still in England, they changed all the Air Force uniforms to Army, so we all went over as brown jobs.
Yeah.
So we all had Army uniforms on, because apparently the Jerrys could spot an Air Force, and by being a technician, they'd plunk you off before they would shoot an Army fella. So we all had brown battle dress and pants on, and I never got into my blues from the time we went over. And I guess I went over in D60 something a long time after you did, because we were clear right through to Amiens.
Yeah. The difference in when you got over into France was that they were formed up into airfields, 3 squadrons to an airfield. In England, we were separate squadrons. And the idea of an airfield was that you were able to be mobile. Everybody could load stuff on trucks and we could move rapidly and follow the Army. It didn't work that way all the time because, as I say, the Army got ahead of us when they broke through at Caen and Falaise.
Which one was in Caen? You in Caen?
Just outside Caen.
Outside Caen?
I went right through Caen. We went right through Caen and finished up in Amiens. But the first day we landed, just outside of Tilly-sur-Mer, I think it was, we run into an American outfit that was landing, a bunch of colored guys. And the first thing they said, "And you guys play baseball?" I said, "Sure." So we had, in them days, when I played baseball in Canada, only the catcher and the first baseman carried gloves. Well, Americans, everybody had gloves. Yeah. It was the big softball thing. Yeah. So we played these guys baseball on some old French field there. Yeah. Could be anything today.
Where's Amiens? In France.
In the northern part. It's up just down below Lille. We went from Amiens and then to Lille and then to Gilles-et-Ain in Holland.
Frequent in the First World War.
As a matter of fact, as I sat on the back of the truck and I noticed the old signpost going by, it was almost the exact same route that my dad took in the First World War.
Yeah, right.
In fact, I had 2 pennies. I had 2 pennies in my wallet that he gave me before I went over, and that was the first 2 pennies that he got from. He said when he bought a newspaper when he landed in 1918 or 1914, whenever it was.
What you guys talked about when you were talking about something about different uniforms? You brought me back to something. I saw it in the movies. At that time when I was over there, it didn't ring a bell. But when you talk about the uniforms, remember when Jerry sent the English-speaking Germans behind our lines and
At the Battle of the Bulge area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the Bulge area. Where was you at that time?
We were in Lille then. In fact, we were so close that they shipped us back because we were Mosquito night fighters. We had a radar in the nose of our aircraft, and they sort of protect it in case Jerry bust out of the bulge and came all the way down. They hustled us out of Lille, quick as a cat. We went back to Amiens again.
We were in Brussels then, and that was when he sent the Air Force through, and they came right through as far as Brussels. They were using 16-year-olds as pilots, and they shot up all of our aircraft. Were put out of commission, and within 2 weeks, our lines were so established then that we had new aircraft within 2 weeks. But that was all part of the Battle of the Bulge. It was his. He sent the Air Force as far as he could into Belgium.
You know, they almost went as far as they're going to go through that time, didn't they?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They come close.
Yeah.
They bypassed us. We were around outside of, not far from Nijmegen. They weren't that far from us.
Right.
We got pulled. We were on, well, I was anyway. We were on, well, the whole division was on another 10-day rest again. And then when this happened, we got pulled out right away and sent back into around, close around, I forget the name of the town now, but it's right at the border of Germany and Holland, eh? Yeah. And they were just missing the Canadians. And they went a long ways. They had the new tanks, eh? Germany had the new tanks and everything, the big tanks.
Of course, they went hell bent for election because it didn't bother them any. All they wanted to do was get at the end of the line and kill as many people as they could because they had English-speaking or American-speaking troops, and also they had priests dressed up as soldiers, one thing and another. They had the whole schmear. It was quite shocking because I can remember doing guard duty in Lille, and you'd walk down the old tarmac with your hard-heeled shoes on, and click, clack, and all of a sudden you would think, did I hear another one? And you'd duck down in behind a wheel and poke the gun around to see if there was somebody following you. And you had 2 hours of that each night, every night, till they kicked us out of there and moved us back to Lille.
Were any of you involved in the liberation of Holland?
No,
No, well, I came in after Nijmegen, that's right close to the German border then. Nijmegen was taken, well, pretty well all of Holland was taken, which the Canadians is one that...
They took Holland.
Yeah, they took Holland.
Division
That's
that
why
went to Holland.
any of us go to Holland
it was tough
today.
fighting.
I mean, we are well liked. Canadians are well liked in Holland.
I know
Yeah.
they are.
Because we are
And
the ones that done
you
it.
were wounded, were you not, Rick?
Well, I got wounded in France, but I went back just at the ending of Holland, just before the German border. I missed the main fighting, Holland. But just outside of Nijmegen, just before the German border, I call it K-House. You know, we always had a name for each outpost we had to hold and everything. I never forget that. K-House.
K-House?
We always had something.
Yeah.
See, K-House, outside of Nijmegen. See, the German border was there, and our border was here. K-House is no man's land in the middle.
It was actually a house?
It was a farm place.
Farm place.
And it had it's a farm place. The house is here. It's got a basement and everything, and front yard. It's right, no house next to it. It's right in no man's land. Hedgerow all around. Then every night we used to take turns in a platoon to go out there. And we go out after dark and relieve another platoon that's out there. They would come in after dark, and we would stay there. And then we stay there all night. We walk around because they can't see us, see? But come daytime, next morning, we're there all the next morning. We don't get relieved at dark. So in the end, you're in this foxhole. You're stuck there all day. You have to go to the washroom there and everything. But when I first got there in K-House, our officer told us where to go. And he says, Jake, you go around the back of the building, find the best place you can hold, so you could see them when they come in. So I went around the back, and I couldn't find a real good place to really be invisible. I'm standing in the corner of this building, and I see this wagon, old-fashioned wagon, you know, it's the old one with the hard
high wheels.
Yeah. It's parked out there. So I thought, well, I'll go out there. I'm standing at the corner of the building. That's not going to be no good. They could see me, you know. Eh? So where I go? I thought that the walls are this high, in the old-fashioned wagon, like we had around here. I thought, well, I'll lay down there, and they can't see me. So away I went and ran out there, and I jumped in there. And you know what I landed on? Oh, I never forgot that. I never forgot that. There's a German laying there, and he's already dead, eh? I landed on top of him. He still got his steel helmet on. And he flipped off and I moved away. I never forgot that.
Yes, Blanche, where did you serve?
Well, I served in Victoria, British Columbia. I was born and raised in Vancouver. I joined the Army in '42, and I was a driver dispatcher. And the Women's Army Corps were formed in order to release men for overseas duty. But unfortunately, there were a lot of things that happened during those few years to us. And people didn't understand what we were doing exactly. Anyway, we did a good job, I think, and I was very proud to serve. I guess that's about,
Many
well,
years
I
girls
married,
get overseas? Many year girls?
no, yes, several of our, we used to be called for overseas on priority. If you had been serving for X number of months or whatever, they'd phone you and say, do you want to go overseas? And the girl would say either yes, or no, and they always said yes. When my turn came up, I had a roomie whose husband was in England. So she was next on the list. And so I let her go in my place. And so I never did get overseas. And on the day that you were landing in Europe, I was getting married.
Oh, you were?
On the 17th of June.
Yeah, contrast.
Yes.
Canada.
Yes, in Vancouver. And I served another 3 months, and then I was unable to meet the physical requirements, so I was let out.
All in Vancouver?
No, Victoria.
Victoria?
Yeah, Victoria. All my service was in Victoria, except for my basic training, which was Alberta. And it's a terrible thing to say, but it was the worst of times, but there were so many friendships made and so many wonderful memories. And I'm sure that my friends here feel the same way about it. There were a lot of tragedies, but a lot of good things came out of it too. And I'm glad we came out the winners.
I think it was the times that made everybody was very close.
Oh, yes.
Everybody helped one another.
Yep, they did.
Like brothers
Yeah.
and sisters.
Matter of fact, I have a friend lives in Vancouver, and I joined up with him. We went from Winnipeg to Brandon, and after we graduated from training school, he went back to Brandon, and then from there he went overseas, and then remustered the air crew. So I was sitting home here in Vancouver, thinking about end of September, I think, when I got in. And he phoned up and said, "Hey, it's our birthday today." And I said, "Why, what do you mean?" He said, "This is Alex Stebner." He says, "This is the day they picked us up on the train to take us to Brandon." I think it was Brandon North. They didn't have a railway station. You got off in the middle of an open field almost, and they had a great big transport there to take you to Brandon Manning Pool.
You were at Branding Manning Pool then?
Yeah.
Cold place in January.
Oh, we were there in September. It was quite nice, yeah. We had a Scotchman from St. James that was going to, he played the drums, and he was going to march us, to give him the drums to march in with the band while we went down to the fairgrounds and that to do our parade bashing.
Yeah.
And God, he couldn't hit one note. They were stumbling all over the streets. I finally took the drum away from him.
I love the marcher though too. It was, I love things. These were nice, you know. I love it. I can tell you something what happened. I'm going to take a wicked jump from somewhere else, you know, eh?
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, then we got pulled out of the line, and over there would be for 10 days, but it wasn't 10 days. And we needed a bath real bad, eh? We had to go and have a bath. A bath in the field, eh? We would go to church in the field, everything in the field, eh? So first night there, I mean, we'd been on the front line for a long time, and I walked in where we were staying. I walked into one of the rooms, and there were some of my buddies mixing something. I said, "What are you guys mixing?" "Oh," I said, "Sir, we're going to mix some brew here." "Well, what do you mix it? How do you mix it?" "We got nothing here to mix." I said, "Well, they got shoe polish, eh? Shoe polish mixing a drink, eh?" I said, "Well, then where are you going to go?" I said, "Well, there's a dance downtown. There's a dance downtown, eh? This is not Megan, eh?" "Well, it's not our dance, is it?" "No, it's an English dance, a regimental English dance. We were going anyway. You coming?" "Oh, yeah, wherever you guys go, I'm going too." You know? It's a brew, shoe polish, eh? So anyway, I forget how how we drank that or whatever happened to it, didn't we? But then we went down to the dance hall, eh? And then it's a regimental dance, English dance, eh? We're not allowed in there. But we go in anyway. No, I get in there. Oh, lots of girls, lots of guys out dancing. There's only about 18 of us guys, and we're all down there together, eh? I go dance with the girl and only go a few feet, and about 6 guys grab hold of me and throw me out of there. The English guys throw me out, eh? No, we go back in again, you know? Go dance again. I only go a few more feet, pick me up again, throw me out again. No, I'm standing in the hall, I get done, one or two, I get thrown out every time. I'm standing in the hallway, pretty soon a bottle of beer comes sailing towards me, land on top of my head and next to the wall. Oh, hey, this is getting kind of rough. So I decided, I'll go back camp. And all my boys are gone then, I couldn't find anybody. So I walked back to camp. I never forgot that.
Were you ever stationed around Caterham in Kenwick, in Surrey?
No.
No?
No.
Caterham was a place where the Canadians got a very bad name. They did had a lot of riots in the pubs and everything there. And while I was overseas, I got married. And my wife used to come down to camp to stay a weekend. But at Caterham, they wouldn't even, once they found out you were married to a Canadian, they wouldn't give you accommodation. It was that bad. And it was like that right through the war. Yeah.
Excuse me, gentlemen, thank you very much for being here this afternoon. Please remember Armistice Day on November the 11th. The Tawasin Legion will join with the Ladner Legion at 10:30 at the Ladner branch, and will march off to the cenotaph, where the 2-minute silence and the ceremony will be held, and the laying of wreaths. And please get your poppies. And thank you very much.
Your eye on Delta, DCTV, Channel 4.
Hello, this is Blanche Hummel, and I'm the first Vice President of the Royal Canadian Legion, Tsawwassen Branch 289, and I have 3 friends here with me I'd like to introduce you to. Percy Perry is on my right, Rick Jacobs in the middle, and Percy Macklem. Air Force Percy, the 2 Percys are Air Force, and Rick is Canadian-Scottish. Percy, how long were you in Europe?
4.5 years.
Ooh.
4.5 years. We were taking, when we were in training at St. Thomas, normally when you finish your training at St. Thomas, you would go back to a base in Canada. But with our entry, they decided they were going to send us overseas, so they asked for volunteers. And 3 of us from Winnipeg volunteered, and we got 2 weeks leave, and then we were over, and that was in 41.
We have a Percy 1 and a Percy 2 here, as we call them at the Legion. And Percy, did you and Percy 2 know each other?
Yes, Percy and I
Before?
went to school in Winnipeg.
Ah.
Daniel Mack School in Winnipeg, and of course, as you go through life, you separate, and we just discovered each other about 3 years ago.
Oh, for heaven's sake, that's wonderful.
There was a 3rd one. He was a Navy man. He passed away a couple of years ago.
Oh.
And the 3 of us had all gone to school in Winnipeg together.
Gosh sakes.
Yeah.
Meeting,
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
You know, I went to the same, what they call decal, or ask you to state your preference for a station. And of course, the guys would all get together and say, well, if you want to go to Winnipeg, put down Vancouver, because if you put down Winnipeg, they'll send you to Vancouver. And if you put down Vancouver, 9 times out of 10, you'll get your Winnipeg station. So I got out of there. I was a 42nd entry out of St. Thomas. Each week was a different entry. And so I got to 42nd, and I got posted to a place called McDonald, just about 15 miles outside of Portage-la-Prairie, which is 60 miles west of Winnipeg on number 1 highway. I stayed there about a year, I guess. Played a lot of hockey, which I enjoyed.
You played hockey overseas too, didn't you?
Yeah. We won. As a matter of
The Air
fact, we were
Force.
runner-up to the Fighter Command Award. Played against Milt Schmidt and Bobby Bauer from Boston Bruins.
Yeah.
So we had enjoyed that, because if you got into the sports aspect of the military, they would take you on different trips for soccer or hockey.
You get a good black market meal. We used to play hockey up at Grimsby in Lincolnshire, and I know that every time after the game they'd take us in and give us a chicken dinner, which was unusual in wartime
I never really
England.
remember getting anything as far as free was concerned, as far as a meal. And if it was, because I remember, because I like food.
Still do?
Remind me something when you mentioned sports. You know, in the front line, we get called out, and one day our corporal came to us and said, "Any soccer players here?" And it's winter time. We're outside in Nijmegen, eh? Snow, there's snow, it's deep, eh? Any soccer players here? And I was with, you know, there's several natives in my outfit then, you know. I was with, you know, with some of the Saskatchewans there. And Marathi, he says, yeah, he puts up his hand in soccer. He says, Jake, do you play soccer? Oh, yeah, I play soccer. Come put your hand up. Let's go play soccer. Get out front line, he said, eh? Okay, I raised my hand. This is for this much snow. And so we got picked up and go to play soccer behind the lines, eh? Playing against, I forget the name, team, it was an English team anyway. But you know, that much snow, every time he kicked the ball, it wouldn't even go 6 feet. Like kicking a chunk of lead, eh? They were playing, and it was so wet and everything. We got soaking wet, but we were happy because, you know, it was to get away from the front line, eh? Yeah. So anyway, go back to camp, I mean, to where we were change clothes, and then at that time, my section was out in no man's land. We have to go out to catch up to the rest of my group, eh? So away we go. Then going out, Rashi and I walking, the native guy walking. He said, Jake, did you get the password? I said, no, I thought you got the password. No, I didn't get the password. Heck, without the password, we're liable to get shot right inside. I said. See, you had a password, eh? Like say sweet Capro, they'll approach you and they'll say sweet, and we say Capro, and then you know, as friends, eh? We didn't know the password, so we got to go back and get the password. Away we go, eh? It was something, you know. I never forget those kind of days, that happy times, and yet, you know, next to death sometimes.
Right.
But it was something you never forget.
You can always recall the happy time. You think back and discuss it like we are now, and you think.
Snow too. Those winters over there, they were some of the coldest winters they'd had in years. 1944, 45.
Yeah.
I can remember shoveling off the whole runway, trying to get room for the aircraft to take off.
Yeah.
God, you'd have 200 guys out there with broken down shovels pushing snow, wet, heavy snow slopping, feet soaking wet.
Well, we were all so young then. I mean, nothing. You look back on it. We just kids.
You made me something else when you talk about something like this. We pulled into a place up next to the German border. It was small little village, and had a leather factory in there, eh? A leather factory where they make things and all that. Of course, when you're in the front line, you don't wear, you know, I mean, you don't wear anything, you know. I don't have to. You've been fighting for a long time, front line. Don't care what you wear, eh? There's a leather factory, so we all go to the leather factory. There's vests there, made vests and everything, you know, leather clothing. You see guys walking around with leather vests on, and stuff like that. Because the officers couldn't say nothing to us, because we've been fighting for a long time, and we don't care anymore, eh? But it looked comical. Guys wearing leather vests.
Some of the billets that you ran into over there, we were building it in a bicycle factory at one time, outside of Brussels. And when we moved into it, there were a lot of spare parts there. And a lot of the guys come out with a complete bicycle, built themselves a bike while we were building it there.
Yeah, I can remember we were in Amiens, I think, when we first went there. We were stationed in the cathedral, and they had the different rooms and double bunks. And there was a chap from Vancouver. We used to call him, I think his name was Smith. We call him Snuffy Smith. As a matter of fact, I think he ended up as the curator of the Vancouver Art Museum here in Vancouver. I haven't seen him since, but he used to draw the guys there with their rubber boots and the socks rolled down on the turtleneck sweaters over a stove cooking up a batch of chicken noodle soup, which we must have gone through 15 tons of with everybody parcels from home.
Those parcels from home, I remember packaging up stuff and sending it overseas, and oh, how grateful they were to get it.
The savior, yeah.
Decide to stop smoking, and all of a sudden, Mother would send over 900
That's
cigarettes.
right. That's
I think
right.
there was 1,000 for a buck.
Yeah.
And you'd get this stack of sweet caprals.
Yeah.
And they'd come over, which was good for barter.
Yes.
You
Yes.
could always.
When did you come back home, Percy?
I guess after the war, just before the Japanese thing. So it must have been sometime in June or July. 45, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what about you, Rick?
You made me think of something now when you talk about after the war. I could have stayed in Hall. Could we still there yet? I guess it was something. The war ended. I was in Belgium and Ghent on leave, right? And the war ended. We knew it was getting close, but we were ready to take a bullet just a couple of days before the war was over. We're all in spring, eh? In the shorts. I was on leave, W12 leave. We're all a bunch of us sitting in the grass. Pretty soon I heard the loudspeaker on the Jeep coming along. The war's over. The war's over. You should see the guys. They all jump up. And the pubs, a lot of pubs were open over there. Eh? Didn't get bombed or anything. We head for the pub. Those crazy guys, my buddies, you know. Well, we're all carrying pistols and stuff like that because of the war. You know, we get a hold of those things, eh? The German. The war's over. We're all head for this pub. You know, everybody was so happy. And they overdo it. They're so excited. Our boys were on leave. One of the guys, well, the guy jumped behind the counter and grabbed a bottle, you know. The bartender, you know, he couldn't do nothing. Of course, he's happy too, eh? Everybody just grabbed what they wanted to drink and help himself, eh? So this was going on. But one, the crazy guy, you know, he pulled out his pistol and he shot one of the lights out, you know. Who the heck's upstairs, you know? Oh, it just went wild. Then anyway, the war's over. So I've gone back, you know, a few weeks. And, you know, well, it's over. I'm still here yet, you know. So we're stationed in Nijmegen, guarding a place in the town. Then we're veterans. We don't have to go and parade. We don't care what the officer says. We've been fighting all the way through from France. We don't care what he says. Well, he's not going to say to us anything anyway, because the guys in the car, they turn around and shoot him or something, you know. Anyway, I fell in love with a pretty girl in Holland, and she loved me too. She was pretty, beautiful, and we were to get married. You know, jumping things, get married. And I still go there to their place intact, that beautiful place, eh? Intact. And so I'm only a block away from where I was working as a guard for the place, eh? So we were to get married. She wanted to come to Canada with me. Everything, but she still wasn't of full age. Her parents is the boss that day, and they didn't want her to come to Canada. They wanted me to stay there, stay in Holland. Don't go home. I don't know. That's a pretty hard thing to do. My parents died yet, eh? And I'm young yet, eh? I'm a young fella. So it just carried on. So I joined. I had to join. My outfit came home to Canada, so I had to join the New Westminster Regiment because they went towards the end of the war, so they're picked to stay there in Europe, eh? To do guard duty. So I had to join them to stay. So I had to stay, and I wanted to stay because I fell in love with this pretty girl, eh? So I started changing my mind. I took my parents alive yet. And they kind of knew I was going to come home, I guess, so she had uncles that they had 3 pubs intact. One day I was at their place, and there was a stranger there. That was her uncle. He offered us one of the pubs for free. If I got married there and stayed, I called her Connie, but I read it down as Connie, eh? I stay in Holland. They give us a pub to start off with in our young life.
You could have been a millionaire today.
I often think about that, you know, and she was very beautiful. I could have stayed, you know, but you could see, you know, your parents are home.
Of course, by the same token, so were hers.
Yeah, that's right.
She had to leave her parents.
She was going to come. The parents says, no, Jake, you stay here. to start in life, make some money.
So how long did it take you to make up your mind to come home?
You know what happened? My buddies knew what was going on. It's getting close to time for us to go home because it's the last, New Westminster's last regiment to come home, Canadian regiment to come home. For me to stay, I would have had to join the English Army to stay there, eh? There's no more Canadians. So what my buddies done, we have our own club similar to this, you know. They gave me a party. They didn't want me to stay. Gave me a party, free drinks, dinner, everything, our own club. And he said, Jake, it's not going to be the same after a while. You won't like it here. You gotta go home. You gotta come home with us. And they kept feeding me drinks and everything, and thick dinner. You know what? They won in the end. They won, and I came home with the...
You
ever go back?
Any of the British Army anyway, would you?
I don't know. That's a long time ago.
I don't think so.
Percy, did you have brothers?
Yeah, I had a brother, my brother Marshall. I had two brothers, actually. My younger brother, he joined up aircrew, I guess, well, just in the latter years of the war. He went up, joined as a pilot, and got started on that training, and then he got bumped down to an observer and navigator, and then finally an air gunner, and then they told him that they didn't need any more air crew, so he didn't get in. But my brother got posted over there, and I claimed him. So he was on the same 410 Night Fighter Squadron that I was on. So we spent quite a bit of time. Our leaves didn't match, because we'd go to my grandmother's in London, and he'd go 1 week and I'd go the next, so they always had some member of the family there.
And did you both come home?
Both came home, yeah.
Good. What about you, Percy? Did you have any family in the service?
No, just
Just
our
yourself?
2 sisters and myself, that's all,
and
and
you
our
s-
family. Well, I came back in 45. We were the first on the Aquitania, and it was the first time they shipped the brides back with the servicemen. And it was quite an experience.
I'll bet it
They had
was.
staterooms, 3 women to a stateroom, and we were down in the hold,
Yeah.
and they detailed you to different jobs. Mine was cleaning out a lavatory. But the weather was so rough, you just threw a bucket of water in the lavatory and let it slosh around and run down the drain, and that was it, and then you were finished.
dear.
And you had visiting hours
Oh, my.
with the wife.
Oh,
yeah.
dear.
Yeah, it was quite an experience.
I'll bet it was.
When I think back on it now, at least I was fortunate in that respect. I came back on a hospital ship, and we had bunks that were pivoted at both ends.
Yeah.
You had a little hook on there, and you could stop it during the day. You wanted to sit on the side of your bunk was all right. Then when you went to bed at night, you just undid the hook. And no matter how the boat rolled, the old bunk just stayed dead straight. But we were the first ship to land in Quebec after the war.
You were.
And we came back, yeah.
How long altogether were you overseas?
3.5 years.
Long time.
Yeah, I just got married. I got married on the March, and I got a month's leave, and I went overseas, and it was pretty close to 4 years before I came back. That's a long time. It was a sad time,
It is
really. When I think of it now, you're away just the
Best
same as you
years of your
take
life,
a,
That's
really.
right.
take a
That's
kid away
And
out
they
of
were
his
quick
mother's house here.
romances, like Percy getting married. I got married 6 months after I got over there. So they were short engagements.
Yeah, yeah.
When you get married in England?
Yeah, in England, yeah. London, yeah.
But the thing, Percy and I got something very similar. His dad was about the same size as mine and died quite young, and his dad married a girl from London, and so did my dad.
My dad married a war bride. My mother was a war bride.
For heaven's sake.
So and Percy was the same. Both in the First World War.
Yeah, I saw my grandparents for the first time before I was 21.
Yeah.
I got over there in early May, and my birthday was the 27th. I can remember walking down the street and looking at this number 50 Tyndall Road where they lived, thinking, my God, I've seen lots of pictures of them, but never had really met them. So it was quite a
Made a big
feat.
fuss of you coming from Canada.
Oh,
Why they-
yeah, yeah.
Couldn't do enough for you.
My dad served in both wars, the first and second. In the first, he was he was called the babe of the regiment. He was with the Calgary Regiment in the First War. And in the Second War, he was in the Navy. His job here in Vancouver was, he was skipper on the Union steamships. I don't know whether you would remember the Union steamships, Rick.
Sounds familiar.
Because they plied the coast here for many years. That was the only transportation all the way up and down the Anyway, he joined the Navy, and he was on an examination ship out here in the Straits. My brother was in the Navy, and I was in the Army, so there were 3 of us that served, and all came out of it. Not I would, because I was here, but my brother was with the convoys on the Atlantic.
North Atlantic.
Yeah, between Halifax and England.
That must be enough.
It was
all the submarines, German submarines there and everything.
Oh, yeah, I can remember when we first got on that troop ship in Halifax, and one that had never been on the water before other than across Lake Winnipeg in a canoe. And so we talked to one of the chaps on the shoreline and said, well, how long will it take us to when we get on this boat before we get over there? And he'd say, oh, you got nothing to worry about. He says, you'll go out on the boat and you'll be within sight of land for, maybe 2.5, 3 days. He said, then you'll hit the middle of the ocean and you won't see anything. And then when you get to the other side for a couple of days, you'll pick up some more land. I said, well, that's not bad. I think I can take that. And so we got on this ship and we pull out of the harbor. God, I bet we didn't get 20 miles past the harbor, and that's the last time we saw land till we landed in Greenock in Scotland.
How many days, person?
About 6 days, I guess. 6
We
days.
were on the water 16 days going across.
16.
54 ships in the convoy.
Yeah, we were a large convoy too, but
And
it took
everybody
me 7
ran
days
for
to
it.
cross the English Channel, 21 miles.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was 10 days across the Atlantic. When we down in South America, it gets so hot down there, right? We left Halifax way down South America. And then turn around and come up in the middle of the Atlantic, all the way up to the north, and it gets cold. And we're just
What
playing
time
around.
of the year was that?
This was when to finish my training. Must have been in start in May, June, July. June, yeah. Well, it's summertime. Yeah, summertime.
So it's,
yeah.
They went that way to run the U-boats too, didn't they?
Yeah.
Down south.
Well, went across on
We did coming back.
and
on the
on
Aquitaine.
I forget the name of the boat now. It's I came home on the Ile de France, and the other one went on as a Dutch boat. I forget the name of it now.
Getting old.
Yeah, it was.
Getting old.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going like this all the time, eh? And the way up north is cold. Then we cut down, we come into Glasgow and catch the train down to England. That's just before D-Day. I mean, it wasn't very long. Station, no more training. It's all over. And,
We went over with the Yanks and the tanks. There was a great big squadron of American Army tanks and stuff, or ships with tanks on them.
or you cross
So,
the pond there. From
Yeah, we went pretty well. Well, it seems to me we went pretty straight, but it's a tough situation when you
What kind of accommodation did you have? Just
on the ship.
yeah.
We slept in the mess hall, and guys were sleeping on the floor. Some were sleeping on the seats. Some were sleeping on the tables, and the rest were hanging with hammocks.
See, everybody experienced a different. We went over on what was a New Zealand cruise ship in peacetime, and we had staterooms. We had white tablecloth and all the silverware when we
Oh,
had
yeah.
sat.
Doing a
That's-
holiday.
Yeah, and 3 of us were detailed to man the big 6-inch gun on the end of the boat. None of us had ever seen a gun before. And the 2 guys I was with, we were all from Winnipeg. They would get seasick every time, so I'd have to help them downstairs, and we'd get into the mess And as soon as they sat down at the table and they saw the soup sliding in the plate,
yeah.
that finished them. They couldn't eat.
I remember one day my father was telling me his examination ship was harbored at
What's
at
an
a Esquimalt.
examination ship?
Well, they examined all ships coming through all up the coast. They couldn't get past them. They'd have to go through them before they could go anywhere. Anyway, he was docked at Esquimalt at Naden, and they came in at night. And the next morning, he got up and went up to the bridge, and all he could see was this huge gray wall that went on forever. And here, in the middle of the night, they had brought in the Queen Elizabeth. And there she
Into
was,
Esquimalt.
into
Yeah.
Esquimalt. It was the only dry dock on the west coast big enough to hold her.
Yeah.
And she'd been over to Vancouver, and she'd sat out in English Bay for a couple of days. And we went down to see her when I was over on leave. And of course, I didn't know that she was going. Nobody knew where she was going. But anyway, I can always remember my father. He couldn't believe it. He just got up, and there was this wall of gray. Anyway, it's been a very pleasant afternoon, and I've enjoyed it very much, and I'm really glad you came.
Yeah.
And I hope that you enjoyed it. I'm sure you did, Rick. You always enjoy things.
That's wonderful.
Nice
And-
reminiscing.
Yes.
It's a long time ago now, but you never forget.
And please don't forget, November the 11th is Remembrance Day, or Armistice Day as we used to call it. The ceremony will be held in Ladner. The Tawasin Legion will join Ladner Legion and form up at the Ladner Legion at 10:30 in the morning of the 11th and march to the cenotaph for the ceremony. I hope you'll all be there and wearing your poppies. Thank you.